Welcome to this week's version of Nickels and Dimes, our weekly video series. Well, if you have had a loved one pass away, you're familiar with this process of transferring wealth from one generation to another. Now, there are some assets that are ideal to inherit, and there are others that are not ideal to inherit. So today we're going to talk about 5 of the worst assets that you can inherit. So let's jump in and explore. And why am I bringing this up today is because baby boomers, those born between 46 and 64, researchers expect those folks to have up to $84 trillion over the next 20 years transition to them. So $84 trillion of assets will be transitioned over the next 20 years, and that breaks down $72 trillion will be transferred to family members, and $12 trillion is expected to be transferred to charities. Now, what's one of the worst assets people can inherit? It's these things. These things, what are they? They're timeshares. Now, timeshares, as you might know, often comes with annual maintenance fees that are oftentimes hard to unload. In other words, if you want to get rid of a timeshare you have inherited, sometimes it's difficult. But the good news is you can walk away with it by disclaiming the property and filing a document called a disclaimer of interest, also known as a renunciation. The second thing that's oftentimes difficult to inherit is a family business. Now, one of my dreams, frankly, was I wish my father had a large family business that I could jump into and end up taking over, but that didn't happen. So I started Nickels Wealth Partners, and the rest is history. But sometimes a family business is difficult to inherit. Why? Because the folks that are inheriting the business, maybe they didn't have the same skill set as the original founder of the business. Maybe they're not as passionate about the business. Maybe there's some disagreements between family members. So one of the things that we recommend is create a succession plan. One of the ways to do that is something called a buy-sell agreement. This is something you can talk with your attorney about. The third thing that is sometimes cumbersome to inherit is a traditional IRA or a SEP IRA or a 401k. Why? Because they're highly tax inefficient. In fact, many times because of new inherited IRA rules, many of these types of accounts need to be distributed or unwound within a 10-year period of time. So what's the solution? Consider transitioning that IRA account to a Roth IRA account. Why? Because a Roth IRA account, there's no required minimum distributions, and it also comes out tax-free when those Roth IRA distributions are taken. The fourth type of account that is not the best to inherit is a collectible, because collectibles, sometimes they're, again, emotional investments, if you will, for those folks that collected those assets. But when you inherit a collectible, sometimes you don't have the same passion as the previous generation. And it's sometimes hard to unwind that collectible, meaning sell it. So what's the one thing you can do? Look at social media. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or Craigslist are some areas or some channels you could look into if you inherit a collectible. And the fifth asset that is not the most ideal to inherit is anything that is listed in a will. Why? Because you might know that just because you have a will, you're not going to avoid probate. Now, you might recall that probate is the process to transfer assets from the deceased to the living. One of the things you can do is create a revocable trust and fund that trust. In other words, sometimes people create a revocable trust, but they don't actually put assets in the trust, meaning they don't transfer the title of an asset like a brokerage account, as an example, or even a house from your name to a revocable trust. So again, anything that is in a will, in most cases, is going to go through probate. So as I've noted in the last some videos, one of the things we want to recommend for you to do is be proactive, not reactive. So do your best to get out in front of estate planning, make sure your assets are properly titled, make sure you have your legal documents in place so the transition of assets from one generation to the next is most efficient, if of course that is your ultimate goal. If you like this video, if you found value in this video, go ahead and share it on social media, Facebook or LinkedIn, or if you get it in an email, go ahead and forward it to a friend. And if you'd like a second opinion on your portfolio or financial situation, this is our website at nickelswealth.com. Click on the upper right-hand tab, this request an appointment tab, fill out the information, and one of our advisors will reach out to you and give you a second opinion on your estate planning, if your assets are properly titled, if your beneficiary designations are to your liking and your wishes. These are simple things that you can do to transition your wealth from one generation to the next most efficiently. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.